What I want to do first is to give you the question, because frequently you hear answers and you can't figure out the question. All right. So I want to give you the question, and the question of this panel that we're trying to deal with, and that question includes Professor Sen and Professor Du and the three of us who are here. And I do want to say from the beginning, since I didn't create the title, I never believed that Abraham ever existed, all right? Now, humanism flows from a revolution since the invention of agriculture, most likely the greatest revolution ever. I call it the secular revolution. And the secular revolution has created dichotomies, overwhelming dichotomies, dichotomies so great that our whole life has been totally altered by it. There is the dichotomy in knowledge. The world of science has so radically altered the way we see the world, even for people who call themselves religious, that we can't even imagine what people believed 200 years ago or 300 years ago. It created what I call the dichotomy in values. I grew up on the tail end of the old value system. The old value system placed great value in suffering, because that was the condition of most of the human race prior to the Industrial Revolution, all right? So everybody's asking, why am I suffering? And they were given the answer. Suffering is good for you. It has redemptive power. My mother believed that. I mean, she really. It has redemptive power. She could always handle suffering, but never happiness. Okay. So the reversal is human beings are now empowered. So now they ask another question, which is outlined or mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson may have put it in. Whoever heard of it? The right to pursue happiness. Happiness here on earth. Now that's a dichotomy. And in fact, it has changed the focus of our culture. It has raised human expectations, sometimes unreasonably, but there it is. There is what I call the focus revolution. The focus revolution, the focus dichotomy, is the removal of the focus of human attention from the next world and the next life and the supernatural to this world. Certainly today, if you walk into most, not fundamentalists, but most establishment churches, the minister, whoever it is, will not be talking about the afterlife. If he insists on doing it, he'll be fired. And that's the Episcopalians and the Presbyterians and the Methodists and whatever. They have been, and this is very important to understand, they have been secularized. And also there is the dichotomy in politics. Everybody who wants to be in politics today anywhere in the world has to use the word democracy. For most of human history, people were living in an authoritarian system in which authority flowed from the top down. And now we live in a political system, you know, it's all over the world now, in which people expect that those who rule will what? Be responsible to the people. And they may not do it, but that is the expectation. That is the revolution. So we live in this world of dichotomies. And what the dichotomy has produced is militancy on the part of the people who are still attached to the old world. And that militancy has triggered a militancy in the people who embrace the world of science and the world of the secular revolution. It's war, and sometimes the behavior of the militants on the other side, certainly recently, has simply aggravated the notion of war. So one of the things that happens is that the humanist world for a long time gathered the wounded. It gathered the people who were wounded by the other side. Some terrible experience in the Roman Catholic Church, some terrible experience in the Muslim world, whatever it be. But the reality is that most of the people, certainly in the Western world and in other parts, are not aware secularists. They have been secularized. There's a difference. Secularized people are people, if you ask them, what's your religion? They'll say, I'm a Presbyterian, I'm a Methodist, whatever. They play golf on Sunday. They go to the symphony, do you understand, on Friday night, whatever. The point is, their behavior has been secularized. They are not hostile to religion. They don't even mind answering the question that way. They're not involved, and in fact, given their lifestyle, and most likely their belief system after secular education, they belong to us. But we don't know how to reach them. We know how to collect the wounded. We don't know how to collect, do you understand? We don't know how to collect the other. Because when they show up, they don't like the meetings of the wounded. The meetings of the wounded are, there is no God, there is no God. And they're turned off because that's what they feel. Which is worse? Hatred or indifference? Hatred is what the wounded give to the other side. Indifference is where most what? Secularized people. They just don't think about it. They don't talk about God. They don't think about going to a service unless somebody's getting baptized, bar mitzvah, whatever else it is. They're in that secularized world. And we're not quite sure how to get to them because they are still part of the cultures in which the old religions were placed and which they sometimes dominated. And they don't know how to get to them. I mean, they don't know how to relate to the militant group that says, we separate ourselves. There is a dichotomy. You're either on one side or the other. So the question is that a sane, rational position for secularists? Because if you get sufficiently self-righteous, you can exclude almost everybody. I grew up in the world, in my neighborhood, of Jewish socialists. There initially were 25. They had a meeting. They broke up into two groups. Then the group of 12 had a meeting and they broke up into 3 groups. Are you getting the question? It's not an unimportant question. And that's what we're exploring. That is, if we could find some way of connecting to what is important for these people, then maybe they would be able to cross the bridge. Because it isn't religion that is the issue. They are part of a culture, an historic culture. Whether it's Jewish culture, Christian culture, do you understand? Muslim culture, they can become profound atheists. But they're dealing with their mothers and their fathers and their grandmothers and the whole thing. And they're not prepared to reject it. Because in some cases, their experiences were not bad. They were not wounded. I was not wounded. I have very positive experiences of my Jewish past. I have, that's it. I didn't become a humanist because I was wounded, that I had some terrible person that followed me around with a stick and beat me over the head unless I said I believed in God.